Since the day the transform element came out in Salesforce Flows, I've been looking for a cool example that'll help me demonstrate how it works. I think transform element is very useful if you use it together with an HTTP callout. Now, in this example, what I'm doing is in my org, where I do my testing and demos, over the years I've accumulated many contact records that I have massaged, I have used and reused, and sometimes I have a need to randomize and reset the field values on those contacts. And what I'm doing here is I created an isTest checkbox on the contact object, and whenever I set that isTest checkbox to true, that triggers an HTTP callout to this random data API that's free, and that returns first name, last name, email, title, mailing address, and all that information comes back and updates my contact record. Kind of randomizes and resets the values on that record for me. This is extremely useful when you want to demo some functionality to internal or external customers. You do your demo and the field values change on your records and you want to set them to a random value before you demo again, then you can use this flow to do it. Please remember that the transform functionality is still in beta. And without further ado, let me just show you how the flow is built and how it works. Enjoy, folks. Now I have a couple of contacts here that I use for testing, and these all have last name Stark. And I just entered digits in here in the assistant's phone number to be able to sort my records by that number, 54321. Now this flow, the randomizer flow, does not really update all fields. It's not going to touch this field over here. And this is the isTest checkbox over here that I can update for the flow to trigger. So I'm going to go ahead and activate these checkboxes on these 5 records in the list view and save it. Now that triggered the flow to do the HTTP callout. The data is going to come back and change the name of these records and populate all these fields over here. This needs a refresh. And as you can see, the first 5 records got brand new names, titles, phone numbers, and emails. And we even see randomized mailing addresses for them. Voila, folks, that's how it's done. Let me show you how the flow is built. Now, I have a record triggered flow that triggers when a contact record is updated and the isTest checkbox is true. And I have an asynchronous path on this after save flow. As recommended by Salesforce, our HTTP callout is going to happen under asynchronous path. Now we have a subflow that calls the asynchronous path. We send the dollar record down to the subflow, and then we get a contact record variable back. For some reason, when we get the values, the contact record variable contact ID is lost. So I set that one again here. Because as you know, when we go to update the contact, we need to have an ID for that record variable so that Salesforce will know which record to update. Now let me just quickly go to my subflow here. Subflow will have the HTTP callout that I have built under actions using the relevant functionality. And this is that callout here. And the API that I'm dealing with actually expects 2 parameters. One is whether I want the response as JSON or XML. So I choose JSON. And I can also tell the API how many randomized user values I need from them. And in this example, I'm just using 1. I have not been able to process multiple responses yet. Now, when I get my response, I'm going to map the values from that response to my field values on a contact record variable. I'm going to take the date of birth, map it to birth date, and a couple of things I have to combine. For example, the response I get from this API has the street address separated into two fields, street name and street address, and that needs to be combined here on the Salesforce side into the street address field. And there I can use a formula to combine the two strings together into one string and update the street address. And some of the values that I get back, I did not have dedicated fields. I did not want to create custom fields for that. So I put many values together, combine the values together, and I put the avatar link, latitude, longitude, the credit card information, the payment method, all kinds of stuff in the description field of the contact. Then once I do my transform, I do a simple assignment and I send that information back to the main flow. And if we go here into one of these records, you're going to also see that we have a title here. The main skill that comes back from the API is listed here under work department. And here in this example, it says work under pressure is the main skill that this person has. And this is the address that came back. And the avatar link is here, latitude, longitude, credit card, and the payment method is credit card. I mean, this API even sends down a URL for a random made up avatar picture for the test contact. When you build your HTTP callout, you are going to need your named credentials and external credentials. The only gotcha here is we don't really need any authentication for this API. It's a free API that doesn't need a user or authentication. But when you're setting up your external credentials, for some reason, it does not show up under profiles or permission sets so that you can give that access to the user with that profile or permission set, unless you set up a principal. You need to set up a principal under the external credentials to be able to process that there. And it actually doesn't matter what you set this up as. I mean, I just wrote hello under this just to be able to create a record so that it can see it, which is very silly, but that's how it works as of now. Enjoy, folks. Try it out and let me know what you think. I'm going to also write a blog post detailing how this is done.